Welcome to Tell the Kids. It's time for us to tell our kids our stories and create some children's literature. So starting with step one, I want you to remember that you have a story to tell. Your story is unique, one that no one else will tell, and no one else for sure will probably get it written down. So we're going to start only with a slice though, not going to try to get the whole thing down at once. Whenever you have Thanksgiving or Christmas, you don't give a child an entire cherry pie or an entire pecan pie, you just give them a slice of it. So we're going to start with one slice. This is the first story you have to tell. This isn't the only story you're going to tell. So don't be discouraged or don't think, oh, there's just too much, or I don't even know where to start. That's why we're doing what we're doing today. So step one, the first thing you need to do is you need to decide exactly who you're writing your story for. Are you writing it for a specific grandchild because this part of your story seems really exciting? Then maybe for all of them, maybe for your kids, maybe for it's the grandkids you don't have yet. It's okay, but you need to decide who your audience is. Decide about what age you're hoping to be able to reach. Is this for a small younger child? Is it for someone that would maybe in the 5th grade? That's about a newspaper reading level. So 5th grade, you can express yourself. That's kind of what I encourage you to aim for, about a 5th grader. But go ahead and in your mind decide, who am I writing this for? And you need to make sure and get that written down, because you need to understand why this is important to you, because you won't keep doing it if you don't think it's important. So the first thing we need to do is, once you've decided who you're going to write it for, now then we need to kind of divide it up and see, where do I even start? That's the biggest question we always have, is where do I start? Well, the simplest thing to do is to create a chart. Now the chart is going to be, I usually like the pie, so I slice it up in pieces. And you can start with, the first slice would be before you were born, then the second slice would be your early childhood, then maybe your young mid-childhood, then maybe your early teen years or your teen years. Then you might create another pie, so you've kind of got quartered. You have maybe when you're a young adult, maybe when you're in college, then whenever you start having children, then a middle adult, and then whatever would be recent for you right now. So if you go ahead and make a chart that helps you divide up your thoughts, now then what you need to start doing is saying, okay, I'm going to have some long narratives and short narratives. Let's talk about what a long narrative is. A long narrative, it has a very distinct beginning point and end point, which all stories usually do, but it has a rise in action. It takes time, and there has to be a time in order for something to be resolved. It might be the time that we lived in Kansas until we moved to Texas, or it may be while my dad was still in college when I was a little girl, or it may be when our family farm was really doing well and then we hit hard times, or maybe we were in hard times and we hit some good times. Some sort of a time period that would be in a chunk that would be maybe just your early childhood or your teen childhood. That the overarching idea would be a longer narrative that you're going to be able to add in some pieces. Coming back to the pecan pie illustration, it's like we have a slice of pecan pie, but we also have little pecan pieces that float to the top. So the long narrative is that slice, the entire slice of pie. But now we're going to talk about the short narratives you're going to sprinkle over it, or the pecans that rise to the top. There are certain memories that we all have that will rise to the top during certain times of our life, our early childhood, our teenage years. So as you take your slices, I want you to kind of write in there a couple of long narratives that may apply to one slice of your life, that early childhood period, your teen child period. Maybe there's just one long narrative. But then what were some of the smaller narratives, the smaller pecan pieces that float to the top of your memory? So what you need to do this week especially is to begin to write those lists, just lists of the long narratives and the short narratives that go ahead and fit on that pie, so that you can then begin to say, well, okay, this is the chunk, this is the piece, this is the part of my life I'm going to start with. So the difference again between a long narrative and a short narrative. A long narrative has a rise in action, takes time, and there's going to eventually be a resolution. Now, short narratives have a rise in action as well. They happen quickly, and they usually have a punchline. That would be like a story that you'd tell at Thanksgiving or over Christmas dinner, that you always kind of retell because it's a funny story or something you really remember. Those are the ones that you're going to sprinkle over the top of the overarching timeline that you have in that one slice of pie. So let's review really quickly of the things that you need to do this week. Write down your dedication page. Who are you writing for this and why? I want you to make your life chart. And in that life chart, right at the top, some long narratives, 1 or 2 per slice would be fine. And then short narratives, whatever those are, in that time period that you remember. Use that life chart to organize it. Pick your top 2 or 3 narratives and keep in mind the short narratives that will be sprinkled throughout. So whichever the short narrative is that you think is going to be the best one to start with, that's where you need to start. So that's what you need to do this week to get started. Now, Louis L'Amour, he once said that you need to make sure and start writing no matter what. The water does not flow until the faucet is turned on. So let's turn on the faucet this week. Have a great time sharing your memories with your kids.